All right, so we've got our first video here on factoring a quadratic expression. Parts A and B, we want to factor the expression. I hope we recognize x squared plus 7x plus 12 is your ax squared plus bx plus c, standard form of a quadratic function. Part B, same thing, ax squared plus bx plus c. We have these trinomials in standard form. When you're in standard form, you can factor the quadratic expression. First thing to take note of is what is your a value. In this first example, our a value is 1. That's going to be the easy factoring. The easy factoring meaning we can just look at our c value. We're looking for factors of 12. Let's write it out. Where do I want to write it out? Right here. Factors of 12 that add up to our b value of 7. So we need factors of 12 that add up to 7. So what are our factors of 12? We can list them: 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4. That covers all of them. Do any of these factor pairs add up to 7? And you'd say, well, yes, Mrs. Youngberg, 3 and 4 do. So when you find the factor pair that adds up to the factor pair of your c value, 12, that adds up to your b value of 7, we write this in factored form. Factored form is going to look like x plus 3, because that was a positive 3, and x plus 4, because that was a positive 4. And you may be thinking, that seems kind of familiar. That's because you have factored in algebra. So this is just kind of a reminder video on how some of this factoring works. All right, so part B, what's different? Well, it's always good just to do another example, but what I do need us to notice is that our a value is 2. If your a value is anything other than 1, our factoring changes a little bit. I'm going to show you guys 2 methods on how to do this, and you pick your favorite one. The first one is called guess and check. How guess and check works is we understand that when we have this trinomial, this quadratic trinomial, it's going to factor into factored form our 2 sets of parentheses. I'm going to make a guess on what I think it is, and then I'm going to check the answer. My guess will be a little bit guided. I know that this first term times this first term has to equal this first term. So what multiplies to give me 2x squared? Well, that's just going to be a 2x times an x. 2 is prime. There's not a lot of options, so just 2x times x. The other thing I know is that the second term of each parenthesis, so the last term of each parenthesis, has to multiply to the last term over here. So what multiplies to a 3? 3 times 1. So we can put the 3 first and the 1 second, or the 1 first and the 3 second. What you want to think about to make more of an educated guess is our check is these terms are going to get multiplied. These 2 terms are going to get multiplied, and we're checking the outside and the inside terms. Those need to add up to this middle term of -5. That's the only way that we know that we factored it correctly. So, should we put, I like this 2x right here. What should be multiplied with 2x, a 3 or a 1, that kind of gets us close to this -5x? And I'm going to say, you know what, I want that to be a 3. I want the 3 to go over here so that 2x times 3 is 6x. Well, if that's a 3, I know that this has to be a 1 because 1 times 3 has to equal that 3. And then I check 1 times 3 is, what am I saying? 1 times x. We're multiplying the inside terms. 1 times x is x. All right. Now we have to pay attention to our signs. This 1 and this 3 do have to multiply to a -3. So that means that we need 1 positive, 1 negative. Do we want a -x or a -6x? Which one should be negative to add up to that -5? And you're saying, oh, well, we want the 6x to be negative because -6x plus x equals -5x. So that means I need the 3 to be negative to get that negative 6x and the 1 to be positive. So we just factored this trinomial, 2x squared minus 5x minus 3, into this 2x plus 1 times this x minus 3. I am showing my check right here when I'm doing the guess and check method. I know that x plus negative 5x or negative 6x gives us that negative 5x. If guess and check is your method that you prefer to do, you got to show me that check right there, just so I know that you actually did guess and answer and then check it. All right, benefits to guess and check. When you get the hang of this, it's faster. And when you get the hang of it, it's just an easier method to use. If you don't get the hang of it, guess and check can be a big headache. So let me show you another method. This is going to be our grouping method. So let's label. Here's guess and check. And then let me show you the grouping method. What's nice about the grouping method is we're going to get the right answer. So if you just want to get the right answer the first time, do the grouping method. You tell me if it feels too long or not. Here's how the grouping method works. We take our trinomial. We've got 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. We are going to expand this. We're going to take that middle term of negative 5x and we're going to replace it with two terms that combine to give us negative 5x. What we do is we take our a value and we multiply it by our c value. So our a value is 2, our c value is negative 3. So 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. What are factors of negative 6 that add up to negative 5? This part is going to feel like what we did up here. Factors of negative 6 that add up to negative 5. We have, I don't know, how about 1 and negative 6? 1 times negative 6 is negative 6, and 1 plus negative 6 is negative 5. All right, so now what we do is we rewrite our trinomial. The 2x squared stays the same. Instead of writing minus 5x, I'm going to use these terms. I'm going to say plus 1x minus 6x, and then that minus 3 carries down. We have expanded our negative 5x into x minus 6x. I didn't change the value of anything. X minus 6x is a negative 5x. But what this allows us to do is group these and just do factor by grouping, which is taking out a GCF from the first group. 2x squared plus 1x, we can factor an x out of both of those, leaves us with a 2x plus 1. Whatever your middle sign is comes down, so I know I need to write down a minus. And then what can we factor out of 6x minus 3? We can factor a 3 out. Technically, it is a negative 3 that we factored out. So if you think about factoring a negative 3 out of both of those terms, negative 6x divided by negative 3 is a positive 2x. Negative 3 divided by 3 is a positive 1. If we've done this correctly, our parentheses will be the same, 2x plus 1. So now that 2x plus 1 will go in one parenthesis. It doesn't matter if it's the first parenthesis or the second. And then the GCF that we factored out, the x, and that negative 3 goes into the other parenthesis, x minus 3. We didn't guess and check, we just followed a method and got to the right answer. So you can decide which method you prefer. Again, this one, when we get the hang of it, is faster. This one will always be right. So your choice.